Good morning, afternoon, night, everybody. Welcome to the next Live with Liz. Today we're covering legal directories and networks. But before we get started, I want to just take a second and thank Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This morning, her body arrived in the Capitol for the first part of what will be many memorial services and honors. Her passing last Friday has deeply affected me and many women and men across our country. And if you don't know, I'm based in the United States. And so it seems important to say that her passing and her legacy and her lifetime of work fighting for gender equality has had a tremendous impact and a tremendous opportunity, and just it's so much to take in, and I'm so affected by it. I'm devastated, but I'm also right now in a moment of awe over her life and her achievements, her commitments, and I hope to live my life in respect of that. And so this morning, starting with a thank you to Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and a blessing that her life and memory are forever ingrained in our society and live on in all of us and in what we're able to do and achieve. And with that, we'll focus on legal directories and networks. What a strange transition. But here it is. Legal directories and networks for law firms. I put these together because some of them do overlap, and you might be surprised to learn that legal directories and rankings also overlap. So rankings are actually considered legal directories, but there are other directories out there, thousands of them, where a law firm can get a listing. Many of them are beneficial, and they may not seem so. They have costs associated with them, and they have to be evaluated carefully. But being in a legal directory, the intention there is visibility, exposure for your firm. And if you are doing some research and looking at search engine optimization, that's where that visibility can come in. You have to do quality work, generally speaking, to be ranked, as we've discussed before. But for the directories, often you just sign up, pay a fee, and you're listed in the directory. When you start to really operate and you gain visibility, the more visibility you gain, the more offers to participate in these directories you will receive. And these offers can be daunting. They will say, oh, you will be listed here and you will have so many referrals. We get 20,000 hits a day or 20,000 hits a month or 100,000 visitors a month. And this is where you will benefit. But you have to really consider what the analytics say specific to your jurisdiction, and further than that, specific to your practice area. Because a lot of those analytics just don't matter for your law firm, and really they could have tens of thousands of people visiting their websites who are not hiring lawyers at the moment, or whom are not out there looking for people in your practice area or your jurisdiction. So if you're sitting in Brazil and you're getting bombarded with these offers that say, oh, I would like to offer you this exclusive position. That's another key thing to look out for. And you'll be listed in this directory and you'll have all of this visibility and it will be worthwhile because you'll get referrals. That might not be true. So strongly suggest that you ask for the analytics and see not just how many people are visiting those directories every month, but how many people are visiting those directories and searching for your jurisdiction and further searching for your practice areas. Now, here's a word of caution, because that exclusivity that they're offering, and this is for the networks too, legal directories and networks, they have broken down practice areas and industries into a lot of different sections to maximize their revenue. This means that exclusivity may not actually mean exclusive. It may just be a listing and you have to take it with a grain of salt and know what that is. So when you're looking at these and it says exclusive, be sure to search. If it says it's exclusive in patents, but they also have a section for life sciences, and they also have a section for electrical patents and mechanical patents or practices that are not listed as patent, then you know that there's not really exclusivity there, that they're just trying to maximize their revenue. And you also want to dig a little bit into their search engine optimization and see if the people who you're targeting, your audience, are actually utilizing those directories to search. Now, sometimes the listing itself can just boost your own search engine optimization. If it's free, if it doesn't take a lot of time, if you have the opportunity to just do it, then perhaps it makes sense to just go ahead and be listed publicly. You're already listed publicly in a lot of directories without maybe even knowing it, so you might as well just go ahead and participate. If they're asking you for $1,000 a year for this exclusive position, it's worth it to have somebody on your team dig a little deeper and see if it's actually legitimate. Now, the difference between the legal directories and the networks is that with the networks, you're truly looking for referral business, and the networks provide, theoretically at least, a platform for you to participate in a community. And the directories, some of them are trying to do that, but they're not quite there yet. And we've seen some failures in this space, and we've seen some of the rankings and directories continue to try and make it in this space. Chambers and Partners is a good example of this. They had something called Chambers Connect. They still encourage you to post your own content on their website. This is a little bit of a gray area. When a directory enters into a networking space, does it reduce the legitimacy of the directory itself, especially if it's doing rankings? Because then all of a sudden they're selling positions as opposed to law firms earning them. So take it with a grain of salt, evaluate it as much as you can to understand whether or not there's truly a value there for you to participate in a directory or ranking. But then on the network side, consider something else. So there are a lot of networks out there that promise all of these same things that the directories promise, that you'll get visibility, but they go further with the referrals. And they say, we're very active, we have all of these opportunities for you to come together. This space, especially in this global pandemic, is evolving rapidly. There are new networks and directories popping up all the time. So there are some things that I look at immediately when a new network comes into play, and I look and go into the who is, even though that information is mostly obscure these days because of newer regulations, it's still beneficial to see when something was created. And so I get an understanding right away by checking that creation date to see how long they've been around. And part of trying to do that is that if they're operating above board, hey Ahu, how's it going? Nice to see you. If they're operating above board, then they probably will have been in place for longer. And if they're just a fly-by-night company that's trying to steal your money, they'll probably be shut down pretty quickly. So I like to see how long a network or directory has been in business before even diving further into what they offer and whether or not it's worthwhile for the law firms that I'm working with. There are a lot of legitimate networks out there. Some of the biggest ones in the world are Lex Mundi, World Services Group, Multi-Law, Interlex. These are some of the more common ones internationally in the intellectual property space, and one that has expanded beyond that is International Referral, also called IR. There are many of them out there that use the words expert and advisor, and you feel good when you get the notice and it says, oh, you're an expert, you're included in this directory, join our network, you've been selected because we value your work, we think you're awesome, you need to be a part of our group. Well, you're awesome, but you have to also consider that they're after your money. All of them are, whether or not there's value in participating with them, they are still after your money. And if you have plenty of it to go around and you don't care, okay, join the networks, why not? You can put a logo on your website, and then if you join the network and do nothing, it's almost like you are in another directory. But if you join the network and you want to get value out of it and you truly want those referrals, then there's a way to do that. So once you've evaluated the network and understand that there is value there, that it's legitimate, number one, and that there is visibility coming from it. You can find it in your jurisdiction. People can target you, target your practice area within the network, right? Then you have to participate to get the most out of it. And this is the most difficult part for a lot of the partner level people I work with. I often recommend to law firms, if you're going to join a network and make the most out of it and get referrals from it, then you really might want to consider having an associate member or a team maybe participate in that space for you, or participate on their own and get visibility for the firm at another level, so that you can maximize the return on that investment, because you want people to dedicate time to understanding the network, meeting people, making sure that the content from your firm is uploaded to the network so that people can find your areas of expertise. Being a part of the community and conversation is important to actually get the referrals out of the network. So a lot of people assume they can just join a network, pay a fee, get into the directory, get into the network, put it on their website, list it as a credential on LinkedIn, and that's it. And then at the end of the year, they say, well, we didn't get any referrals from this. No kidding. Well, that's because you didn't do anything with the network. And one of the ways that these networks are evolving, as I mentioned, this year in particular, aside from new ones popping up every other day, is that they used to be fostering relationships in person at conferences, in relation to conferences with other organizations. So maybe you went to the IBA, but maybe you had a reception for your network there. The same thing if you're in INTA and in the IP sector, you go there and then you have your maybe a reception for IR attached to it, and you meet your people in this group. But now that we can't do that and it's all electronic, we're seeing more and more of these networks pop up, and more of them devoting everything to the online space, which is all we can do right now, right? The virtual space. So that doesn't mean there's no value in it. And it doesn't mean that you don't have to participate anymore and that, oh, I'm just not going to get referrals. If you belong to the network, make the most of it. Go ahead and still participate. And if you don't have time, again, consider an associate or a clerk or somebody in your office participating for you, or participating themselves directly with the firm's name behind them and getting business for your firm. But you have to foster those relationships in that community. So just a few directories, if you want to see some of the distinction directories, like the traditional rankings publications, Chambers and Partners, and the Legal 500. There's also FindLaw. HG.org is one that consistently comes up in the top 10 if you're searching for attorneys in the US. Avo is one that people have listed on their website or that comes up as well. Lawinfo.com, Who's Who Legal. These are some of the directories that are out there. And again, there are some that are trying to be networks. And then under the network field, where you have these communities, those are, like I mentioned before, Lex Mundi, World Services Group, Interlex, Maritas, Tag Law, Terralex, World Law Group, and many of them, they have these names that just kind of they're the same: expert, advisor, advisor law, advisor expert. They get a little confusing. So it is important to take a look closely at what you're joining, how much it costs, whether or not it's worth it. When I say that there are hundreds, there are actually thousands of these out there. And so if you're not careful and you just join all of them, well, it's a huge waste of money, but maybe you get a lot of visibility out of it. And just remember that it's important to consider whether or not they're legitimate, whether or not they're present in your jurisdiction and your practice area, whether or not exclusivity really means exclusivity, and if you have the time to put into them to get the referral business out of them. And if you're just signing up to a network and paying the fee and not putting any effort into making it successful, then you won't be successful with it. You won't get the referrals. And that's just basically how it works. And if you have questions about whether or not a network or a directory is legitimate or is recommended for your firm, feel free to send an email to us, solutions@firmforward.com, and we'll let you know. We'll tell you what we think about it, and If we can be of help in making these decisions throughout the year in your media investments and purchasing, we're happy to do that. We offer that as a service. Always delighted to hear from any of you, and really appreciate you joining me for Live with Liz. We'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.